Welcome to ClassMaker 2017. This is the second instructional video and will show you how to use ClassMaker to create your classes for the new year. After starting up the program, the next thing you do is open the student database file you created earlier using Excel. To do this, you click Open Database and the number of files will appear. You then select the file you're interested in and it will show you a quick summary of the data that you are using in your student database file. In this case, it will give the format in first name, last name. You can also have last name, comma, first name. The number of students it's read with a description of the gender balance, the average number of friends each student has, which is 4, the number of essential matches you have, which is 3, and the number of incompatible student pairs you have in the database file, which in this case is 15. Generally speaking, you should try to keep the number of essential matches to less than or around 10% of the total student numbers, and the number of incompatible student pairs to be around about 20% or less of the total student numbers. You then click OK. You will notice that on the left-hand side are all the buttons you need to press, and on the right-hand side is where the student names and the averages will appear. You'll also notice that down the bottom is a description of the license file and which school the license file is attributed to and how many days are remaining. So once we've decided that we're going to use this file, which in this case is Year 1 27 Demo, which you can see on the top left-hand side, we then press the Make Classes button and ClassMaker will go ahead and try to match all the friend requests and all the essentials and incompatibles that you've set up in your student database file and produce 4 classes of more or less equal size, in this case 21 students each. All the names will appear for Class A, Class B, Class C and Class D, and underneath will be a description or an average values for the descriptors that you put in to your student database file, the gender balance, numeracy, literacy, behaviour, participation levels, any friendless or incompatible students are in these databases, and a multi-age split, which in this case is not applicable because all the students were set up to be in Year 1. Now you can see that you've got quite a range of gender balance here, and we can look at it's made 10 class sets where everyone has a friend, and you can scroll through these to make sure you find one that you like the look of. In this case, we'll show class set 6, and it's got 71% females in class C. Now this probably isn't ideal, and you can ask ClassMaker to redo it again, but this time set a maximum gender ratio for each class. And this is under the options. Maximum gender split in this case was set to 100%. That means that it will create a class that has 100% boys or girls in a particular class. If you want to reduce this to be a more reasonable number, you press the button and it brings up a descriptor of the current settings. It will show the current gender split of 51.2% and give you a range over which is a good idea to set for your maximum class size. If you set to a value that was lower than 51.2%, then ClassMaker will never be able to find a solution. So it's important to be realistic when coming to these numbers. In this case, it's recommended a value somewhere between 56 and 100%. By putting in a value here, let's say 55, that will mean that any classes that are made using the program will have no more than either 55% girls or 55% boys. Once that's set, we hit Make Classes again, and it takes a little bit longer. It's taken 3.27 seconds to come up with 10 solutions, but you can see that none of the gender ratios are higher than 55% or lower than 45%. And again, you can zip through them and find a ratio that you like. You can also see the average values of numeracy, literacy, behaviour and participation, remembering that all the students in this class sets have a friend, and all the essential friends and incompatible student pairings have been met. Now, let's say you don't want to have 4 classes. Let's say you want to only have 3. We'll go to Sort Parameters, change the number of classes to be equal to 3, and ClassMaker will then look at the 3 class sets of 28. We then hit Make Classes again, and it's found 10 solutions in 1.5 seconds, again with that same gender balance of no greater than 55%. Let's go back to 4 class sets, but let's say you want to have a small class and a large class. You don't like the idea of having all the classes the same size. So let's say we want to manually choose the class size. It will then give another box, will show that you've got 84 students left, and you've got 4 classes. Let's say we want 20 students in class A, 35 students in class B, 15 students in class C, which leaves 14 students left in class D. We'll then hit the button that says Make the Classes again, and again it's come through with 10 combinations in 2.8 seconds where all these requirements have been met. You can see that the averages are all still written underneath each class. If you've ever got any questions about how to use any of the different options in ClassMaker, you can always use the button marked User Guide, and that will bring up the PDF file which describes how to use ClassMaker. And it's a very good idea to read through this user guide before using ClassMaker, as well as during if you need any more additional hints or tips. Once you've created your class sets, you can then save the class sets it makes. You've got 2 options: a summary data file, which is useful for the final class set, and that will save it in a CSV format which you can load up in Excel. In this case, we'll call Summary Sorted Data for Year 1 2017 Demo. Or you can save it as its full data file with all the data all together and all the friends. And this is useful for when you want to change any data files afterwards. You can send these to other colleagues or to the principal to make sure that the data files are acceptable. And that's a much easier way of sharing your student database files with other people so that they can then import the data files later and then edit them themselves. The next stage will be to look at tweaking the classes that ClassMaker creates, and that will be the subject of the next video.